Hi, I'm Dajana Yoakley. I'm a peaceful parenting coach and mom of three, and I'm delighted to give you the latest science-backed research on child development, parenting, and to support you in showing up as the parent that you want to be. Welcome. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for joining us again on the Delight in Parenting podcast. I'm your host, Dajana Yoakley, and I'm so excited to have here with me Lauren O'Carroll. Welcome, Lauren. So glad to have you back on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Lovely to see you again, Dajana.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you back. We've had Lauren on the podcast before and on my summits. And Lauren is an amazing certified peaceful parenting coach and an expert on supporting families with ADHD. I'll let you share a little bit more about your background, but I just want to say that this conversation I think is very useful to keep coming back to because there are parents in my audience who have themselves neurodiversity or are parenting children with neurodiversity or even just children with more highly sensitive nervous system, which it's all applicable to. And Lauren is going to give us some practical, action-oriented, insightful reframes for our mindset, but also boots on the ground strategies for how we can survive the day-to-day with highly sensitive people around us. So yeah, would you share a little bit about a quick bio about your work for those that are not familiar?
Yeah, sure. So I am a parent with ADHD and I am raising two neurodivergent kids, one of whom is diagnosed, one of whom is 6 and is kind of on the pathway to get diagnosed, but I'm pretty sure. And the reason that I came into all of this was when I became a parent, I kind of just expected that I would somehow just become an adult and learn how to adult, and somehow managed to not get really cross, like I always have. And I'm very reactive. I've got a very reactive nervous system, and when things go wrong, when I get overwhelmed, my nervous system tells me to explode. And that's always been the case for me. And some of that probably is to do with maybe not having the co-regulation I needed as a child. But also, I think it's just the way I'm wired. And when I became a parent, I was like, okay, this magical thing doesn't seem to have happened. Let me figure out how to do this parenting thing. I've always been somebody who's worked really hard to do things the best way I can. So I read all the books, and I had kids which weren't necessarily like easy babies. I think I gave them all the different labels along the way that are there. But it wasn't so much that I needed help with my kids. I kind of just needed help with me, because what I came to realize, I think when I read Dr. Laura Markham's book, was okay, the first step is, us regulating ourselves. And that was the bit I just couldn't do. Like, that's really, really hard for me. And I felt really alone with it. And I sat with that for a long time. And I realized, in a fit of rage one night when I was trying to get my daughter to sleep, that like, I really do need help. Like, but what do I look for? Do I look for anger management? Do I look for, I don't know. And who can I tell? Am I going to get into trouble? Can I admit to people that like, I'm so angry and tired and exhausted that like I'm shouting at my child and sort of aggressively putting her down in her cot when she won't sleep? Or can I tell anyone that? Like, I need the help, and I know I'm a good parent, but I also know that that is not a good thing to do. And I want to stop, but I don't know how. And I felt so, so stuck, and went and had lots of therapy and all of the other things. And then eventually trained as a parent coach, and then specialized in ADHD, did extra courses in mindfulness for neurodivergent people and autism and sensory stuff, all the things. Trying to figure out how somebody who has a hypervigilant nervous system like me, somebody who is wired to be a bit more explosive, can co-regulate with their kids. Because what I realized, especially as I sort of trained and read all the books, co-regulation is so important for neurodivergent kids because they find it harder to co-regulate to regulate themselves. And yet our parents are much more likely to be neurodivergent because it's highly genetic. And I was just going, why is there nothing? There's got to be something for parents who struggle with this, because it's a lifelong condition. And honestly, there's nothing. So that was kind of like my mission years and years ago, and that's what I do now. Largely, I help parents who have ADHD, and I help parents who are raising neurodivergent kids, or kids with like big feelings, difficult, challenging behaviors. But yeah, just really sort of trying to hold space for parents who are in that place to go, you don't have to sit in this shame. Like, it's not because you're a bad person, it's not because you don't care about your kids, it's because you haven't got the support and you need that support.
Mhm. Oh my goodness, such a powerful message, I think, to parents listening, and really putting into words, I think, what many people feel and maybe are experiencing behind closed doors, but are too afraid to maybe even admit it to themselves, nonetheless admit it to the world or other people. And it creates barriers to getting that support. So I'm really thankful for your authenticity and honesty about your personal experience, because I think so many parents can relate. Um, Especially parents that are reading about peaceful parenting, mindful parenting, wanting to be a good person and a good parent and co-regulate, like you said, but they just can't pull it off.
Yeah.
There's so much shame that goes into that, and guilt, and then again, like if you're keeping it to yourself, then you're not able to take the next step to get support.
Yeah.
So I'd love for you
Yeah.
to share about what is supportive for parents like this. Because like you said, ADHD kids, neurodiverse kids, they needed more than kids that's neurotypical, but that parent might be even less skilled at this moment in time to provide it. So it's like a double negative,
Yeah.
and it's just
Yeah.
heartbreaking at times.
Yeah. And I think it's also really important to hold the context, which again is even more of a negative, but that, if you're neurodivergent and you're raising neurodivergent kids, the challenge for you as a parent, if you're raising neurodivergent kids, is harder. Like, it is harder to parent neurodivergent kids, without a doubt. It is more stressful. There's more advocacy that you have to do. There's more keeping calm. There's more judgment. There's more, everything. And also, relationships are harder if you're neurodivergent. So you've got that as well. Like, it's harder to be in a relationship with somebody who's ADHD or autistic. It's harder to stay in a relationship with somebody who doesn't understand you if you're unmasking with your partner. And with that comes a lot of shame, and you carry a sort of a backpack full of shame from your childhood as well, from being neurodivergent. So there's all these things that are playing against you. There's judgment, there's your judgment against yourself, which is probably huge as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's doubt, there's maybe issues in the parental relationship, and there's, lots and lots of challenges just in terms of parenting your kids who are doing the best they can, and you're doing the best you can, and it can feel completely overwhelming. And I have been there many, many, many times, and a lot of my clients are there a lot of the time. But I think what makes a huge difference, firstly, is co-regulation, but co-regulation with the parent. So the parent feeling seen, the parent feeling held in that hard place, and community. So, like, I have a membership of parents who are neurodivergent, and I think just even having that space where they get together and talk to each other is really, really powerful, because it means that they don't feel alone. And we talk about the challenges that we're all having. And, I talk about the challenges that I'm having. And I'm probably
Yeah.
unusual parent coach, because I will say, I screamed at my kids this morning and I was a really terrible parent and I shouldn't have done that. But, well, I don't say it in that terms, but that is what's going through my head in the moment. And then I remember to have self-compassion. But I think it's the point of, actually, even people who are professionals in this field get it wrong, and hearing that, and hearing that it's like, do you know what? We're all doing the best we can.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're gonna get it wrong with our kids. And there's stuff we can do. There are things that we can do to repair when we get it wrong. But when we're so stuck in shame and feeling like we're awful people, we sometimes can't access the part of our brain that can even accept responsibility for what we've done and make a repair with our kids. So yeah, I think it's all of it, and it's having the space to be yourself and talk about what, I mean, I need it as much as my clients, right? As to be able to say, I've done this thing, and hear from other people, yeah, do you know what, I've done that too. And, you know, work out how we can do it differently, work out how we can repair, work out how we might be able to support ourselves differently next time. It's exactly the same as what we would do with our children. We need to do that for ourselves as parents
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
There's a phrase Dr. Ross Green says, it's, you know, quite a famous kind of phrase, which I love, and I have it on my business cards, which is kids do well if they can, right? And it's like, you know, we're neurodivergent, if we're neurodivergent, or if we've got like executive functioning challenges, if we've got just like a nervous system that is wired differently, if we are just a child who's having a hard time because it's been a long week, their behavior might not be ideal, but they're probably doing the best, well, they are doing the best they can. So there's a reason why they're not doing well, and that's probably because they either don't have, and I know you know all this because you've trained with him, but like, you know, there is that side of like, there's a skill that's lagging, or you know, that the nervous system's just completely overwhelmed and they just don't have it. But the same is true for parents, especially parents who are listening to this now. If you're listening to this podcast, if
Yeah.
you put in, find a parenting podcast and listen to it, that is proof that you are a good parent and you're doing the best you can. And if you shout at your kids, it doesn't mean you're a bad parent. It means you need more support. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I love this conversation and addressing part of how we support ourselves so that we can support our kids and, you know, chaotic moments and big emotional outbursts is we need to learn co-regulation first, but it doesn't happen in those intense moments with our kids where we have these high expectations of like, now I need to show up as that parent that I've been reading about in the books. That's not where it's going to happen, where you're going to learn. It's going to happen outside of that relationship with your child, and it's going to happen through co-regulation with another parent's calm nervous system. So it's essentially like marinating our own nervous systems in other relationships with other adults where they are in a state of regulation, so we can borrow their calm and then we can take that back to our kids. And I love this idea of community and staying plugged in with other parents, because and that's like a lifelong thing, right? Because it's like as soon as you stop exposing yourself to that environment, you're going to start to adapt to some other environment. And if it's just being around your kids without that adult support, your kid is feeling chaotic and out of control, and you're just going to mirror that and you're going to absorb that, and then again it's like a dead end. So you're saying as one of the key strategies is to really give yourself permission to plug into relationships with other adults that are supportive
Yeah.
and do it on an ongoing basis. Really, it's like a
Yeah, happy
lifestyle
people.
shift, really, like
Yeah.
healthy lifestyle, healthier diet, you know, more movement in your body. And mental health wise, it's a big piece is community and exposure to this on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, and it's community with, I mean, like I think there's so many different types of community and support and scaffolding that you need as a parent. And some of that is local, some of that might not be local, right? It might not be from, you know, the school playground and the people that you might see after school when you're picking up your child. It might be an online community because you have a child who is very different to those in your community, or you might not feel like you can talk to those people in your community about these things because it might feel, you know, I have a lot of clients who are really struggle to share some of their struggles. You know, they're very private, and that would feel too hard to do locally. But I think it's really important that you have people that you can ask for support, and that might be neurotypical people. If you are neurodivergent yourself and you struggle to organize the lunches and you struggle to get places on time and you know, it's really good if you've got a network of people who you can pretty much rely on that they're going to pick their kids up on time, and maybe they can, like, you know, be the person that you call if you're running late. It's helpful if you can have someone, you know, to prompt you, to remind you of certain things that you know that you're going to forget. You know, having that network, but also having the people that you feel safe to say, I've just done something that I'm feeling pretty rubbish about as a parent, or my child has just done this thing, and quite frankly, I'm really upset about it. Maybe I'm worried about what it means for their future. Maybe I'm worried it means they're a bad person. But having people that you can talk to about that, who understand, because they've also got kids who might do similar kinds of things. It's really hard to talk to parents of kids who don't struggle in the same way and not feel judged, because you can't understand what,
Yeah.
if you don't have that experience of raising a child who really, really struggles, then it's really, really hard not to jump to that. Yeah, well, you know, if you've just been a bit stricter on screens, or if you just had a bit more of a boundary, or if you could just, you know, be a bit more, you know, if you just like were a bit stricter with them, for instance. Like, well, if you've got a child who's demand avoidant, being strict with them is not going to help. But we might, it's really, really hard to understand if you're not there, basically. And I
Yeah.
think that's important. You've got people that you just know, that you don't need to preamble everything. You can just be like, this is today. And that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing is that there's this empathic listening on the other side without trying to give you advice and solve the problem, because most likely they can't solve your problem, and there isn't the right advice. Isn't actually There is no such thing as like the right advice in that moment, because what you actually need, the solution or the actual advice, is just empathic listening. And when they can give you that, that actually solves a big portion of the challenge here, which is you kind of unpacking this and feeling heard and feeling like you belong to a group of people that truly understand, without trying to fix you, without trying to adjust parts about you or your approach, because then that feels like, well, maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not doing it correctly. And I've heard several like parents with neurodiversity or raising neurodiverse kids say, you know, it kind of frustrates them a little bit when other parents are like, oh yeah, I understand. Oh yeah, that I've been through that same thing, something similar. And the parent might feel like, no, you haven't. You have not been through this. Like, because I've
You may have
heard you talk
experienced
about your stuff,
meltdown.
but it's not the same intensity. Like, it can
Yeah.
feel like, I don't know, maybe minimizing. I don't know if you want to elaborate
Yeah,
on that. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. When you talk to parents, like, oh yeah, you know, I get, we get that. I'm like, do you get it 7 times a day? Like, do you get like 3 minutes of peace in your house a day? Because that's what it can sometimes feel like to these families. You know, it's
Yeah.
just, and I think the point that you made earlier about the kind of the co-regulation, like if you're in a family in which there's lots of neurodivergence, right? In my household, definitely 3 out of 4 of us are neurodivergent, potentially four, I don't know. But there is a high intensity. Our nervous systems, and I tend to, when I work with parents, when I work with families, you know, often I do know the diagnosis, often we don't. But actually, that doesn't necessarily matter that much to me, because what I'm always looking at is, where is everybody's nervous systems? How safe is everybody feeling? And what do we need to do to create a sense of safety so that those nervous systems can settle, can feel calm, can have space? And also recognizing that if you're neurodivergent, you probably have a nervous system that is heightened, it's hypervigilant. We're much more likely to spot threat a mile off. It's a brilliant survival instinct. It's why we do so well in, especially ADHD brains, why we do so well in like emergency departments and you know, stressful situations, because that's when the brain is just like, cha-ching, I'm dialed in, I know what I'm doing, I've got the dopamine. But our amygdalas cannot tell the difference. I mean, no one's an amygdala can tell the difference between a, you know, a real threat, like there's been a massive car accident and loads of people have been injured and we need to, pull people out of the fire that's about to happen, and a work email pinging in and, you've forgotten to send it and, your child is crying in the corner, and, that feels the same level of intent. Our amygdala goes, oh, that's a big threat. I'm going to send loads of adrenaline into the brain. I'm going to send all of these stress hormones around the body. Everything is going to get activated and you're in fight or flight. And at that point, I mean, our executive functions are not as strong as somebody who is neurotypical. So it's even harder to think through that logically and like get that prefrontal cortex working to go, okay, let's bring ourselves back in, let's integrate this brain so that we can get ourselves to calm. This isn't an emergency, using all the things that I might suggest to parents, using a mantra like it's not an emergency, taking some deep breaths. I mean, the amount of times that I've remembered to take deep breaths, but I'm just going, this isn't working, I'm taking deep breaths, I'm still really stressed. And it's almost like, it's so hard to get that brain and body into a place where you can know how to get to calm.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when everyone's nervous systems are like that, it's just so easy to just get into the chaos state where it's just everything is pinging off each other. Kids' behavior gets worse. Parents get angrier. Parents shout more. Kids ignore. Parents get more frustrated. Everyone's neurodivergence then gets bigger. The ability to kind of do what you're being asked, the ability to get started, the ability to do your homework, all of those things get worse, not because your child is suddenly more neurodivergent or their brain is less able to, well, their brain is less able to do it, but it's probably because of the overwhelm and not being able to kind of think logically and bring everything back down. So if we can just look at the nervous systems in the household and learn some strategies and have some anchor points where we're getting everyone to calm regularly, I think that can really, really help. And it's really, really individualized. It's great to read books. It's great to do summits. All of these things give us amazing ideas. And I think we also have to remember, and I think actually you were the first person who ever introduced me to this idea, that, with some kids particularly, you have to find a backdoor in. You have to find the thing that works for your family, your individual children, yourself. And I could give lots and lots of tips and techniques, but until I'm sort of sitting with a family and able to really dig into what is happening, it's very hard to sort of say, well, yeah, try this, it's going to work, because everyone's unique and everyone's got a different situation. And what I often find is the parents actually, when they can start to trust themselves, when they can start to feel supported by community and able to talk, well, the first step is accepting what they might do that might not be ideal. And when we've got shame, that can feel really hard to even accept to ourselves, let alone talk about it out loud. But when we can start to do that, then we can start to move into okay, what could I do in this situation? And parents generally, when you ask the right questions, and when the parents learn to trust their instincts again and learn what is parental instinct and what is, okay, this is a learned behavior from my childhood, parents generally do know the right thing to do. I think there's almost too much information out there, and you and I are both adding to it. But it's finding the information and the stuff that resonates for you in the way that works for you, the stuff that speaks to you. And if you hear something and you're like, yeah, this makes perfect sense, but I can't access it, then it's going, okay, so what can I access? What does make sense to me?
I love that, because Yeah, it sounds like what you're saying is like focus on the next step that's applicable for you. If you think about like a journey, yeah, the far away like distance, like the goal over there sounds amazing and I'd love to have that. Love that makes sense. But where I'm at right now with the circumstances and the skills I have to this point, I can't jump from 0 to 10. I have to go from 0 to 1 and then from
Yeah.
1 to 2. So it's like a step by step.
And you
So it's
have to
very
feel good about
customized.
that. You have to celebrate that. You have to go, oh my gosh, I've got to one. I only
Yeah.
shouted at my kids 20 times today rather than 19. That's a
Yeah.
win. That's a win.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when you're comparing yourself to the parent who hasn't shouted in 3 weeks, it doesn't feel like a win. But that
Mhm.
parent might not have the same circumstances as you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I love that and rewarding ourselves throughout. And community, of course, helps with that. So yeah, I love that we've touched on the power of kind of putting your own oxygen mask first through co-regulation with other adults and community. And then we've talked about how normalizing and de-shaming where we're at is really part of the healing process when we can um, accept where we are without take we accept where we are without trying to change it. At the same time, we always ask ourselves, what support do I need now? It's different than saying I'm just going to be lazy and I'm just going to be bad and it's okay, right? Like I'm going to be a bad parent and now I'm condoning that. That's not the same thing as saying this is what it is. This is what I have in front of me. This is what's on my plate right now. And now if I'm missing some things here, how can I add other things to my plate that are supportive? And how can I take things off my plate that are not supportive? It's a more realistic approach, even if it doesn't feel like it's where you want to be, right? But that's part of
It's
the
also
healing. It's
hard.
welcoming all these parts of ourselves and not pushing them and denying them the reality of what's happening.
Yeah. And it's also really hard. So just to give an example of like where I was a few years ago, I was really good at connection, right? You and I both trained with Dr. Laura Markham. So, the peaceful parenting model focuses on parental regulation, connection with your kids, and emotion coaching your kids. I was pretty good at connection. Emotion coaching my kids, I was pretty good at. I mean, they wouldn't often access it because they had their own shame issues, but I got the concept, I understood what to do. But the self-regulation bit, I found really hard. But what I did, because, I was in therapy, I was trying to do all the things. I hadn't at that point gone back to ADHD medication because, I was in the process of like starting my family. I had IVF, which meant that I couldn't have ADHD medication during that. I was breastfeeding, etc., etc. So, and actually, that made a huge difference for me and my ability to self-regulate when I finally hit burnout, took a bit of time off work, and realised, oh yeah, I need to go on some medication, and that made an enormous difference to me. And it's not right for everybody, but for me, it did make a really big difference. But I think the fact that trying to remember where I'm going with this. Oh, that was it. So rather than going, okay, I need to figure out what to take out of my life to make things calmer, figure out how to get myself into a place where I was able to create space to calm my nervous system. I went, okay, things are really difficult in my house. This child's not sleeping. This child's really, really anxious and struggling with XYZ. What can I do? What can I do? Right, I'm just going to read every single parenting book. I'm going to go to every single summit. I'm going to listen to everything. I'm going to get my hands on all the information I can. And I was like a walking encyclopedia. I could tell you what anybody had said about parenting. I properly hyper focused on it. But did my parenting get better? No, because I still couldn't co-regulate. I still couldn't get myself calm first. So although I knew exactly what to do in every moment, soon as my fight or flight took over, my prefrontal cortex disengaged and I exploded. And it was I do what we call in England body psychotherapy, which is essentially somatic therapy, which I found enormously helpful. But
Yes,
my therapist
amazing.
at the time was like, you need to stop absorbing information. You need to stop reading books. You need to stop doing these summits. And I'm like, no, Diana, summits are amazing. And I'm like, I can't stop doing them. But I But, you know, she was right. I did need to
Yeah.
stop for a little bit. And it's not to say you can never listen to that stuff again, but it's about trusting yourself and slowing down when it's all getting too much. And it's about
Yeah.
knowing, sometimes just sitting with somebody who can help you get that perspective and go, okay, where am I? What is the bit that needs to change right now? Is it my own regulation? Is it reducing overwhelm? I mean, we live such overwhelming lives now, such overwhelming lives. We were never designed to parent like we are trying to do now.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody is getting it right. And no one probably will ever get it right because we're always learning.
Yeah.
But often information that is kind of, you know, necessarily pretty broad, like what we're talking about now, it's pretty broad. You know, I can't give advice for one specific instance. Well, I could, but it's not going to relate to most people because, you know, you need to kind of find somebody, whether it's a professional, whether it's a friend who really, really gets it, to help you go, okay, like this is the thing, this is your first step. And that first step might be different for everyone.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, I love that personalization and customizing it. Um, and I love this idea of like when we're overwhelmed with in the frenzy of dysregulation, trying to learn co-regulation and trying to calm down, we actually stress ourselves out more because we're adding more thinking to the situation. I've been recently really exploring this idea of like exactly what you're talking about, like consuming, doing more, thinking it's going to help, which it is in some ways, but not what you need right now.
But it's
Right
the doing,
now, what
right? You feel like you're doing something, which makes you feel
you, yes, it's the action feels like improvement, but it's actually just kind of spinning your wheels and losing energy. When in reality, what you need right now, you know, assuming you have a good idea of like peaceful parenting, mindful parenting, you just can't pull it off, then I think it's more helpful to not consume more information. It's more helpful to consume less information and thinking part of your brain, but focus more on
yeah.
feeling your nervous system, because that's where the stage you're at that you're trying to fine tune. You can't think your way through feelings. You have to feel your way through feelings. And yeah, you can't slow down an overwhelmed nervous system by adding more thinking to it to think your way out of that overwhelm. You have to literally put less ingredients into this recipe. Stop at, because that's the issue, right? Now that maybe some parents are like, oh, I'm not sure what that actually looks like. What does that look like? So then maybe you are going to start to consume more information and do more thinking about it and reflect on it. But I think what you're saying is like personalize it to your situation. We're
Mm,
talking about these kind of general ideas and then we're zooming in on certain things. What is the next step? What's the one next step that's relevant for you as a parent that would
yeah.
feel most helpful? And doesn't mean any of these things are wrong or bad, because they're not. It's just, what do you need right now? Just like we always ask for our children, you're always parenting the kid right in front of you. And if you have more than one kid, you know that like they don't need the same thing at the same time. They need you to give them what they need. So the question is like, what do you need right now? And kind of filtering that, which can be hard, which is why I love how you said, like, reach out to a professional, talk to a friend that really understands you, and then for a short period of time, focus on that. It's not a forever thing, right? Doesn't mean you'll never listen to my podcast again or whatever, but maybe right now you need to take a little
That's
break.
amazing. I'm not trying to say don't. But it's yeah, it's taking a break to give yourself a chance to feel and tune in. And that can sound really, really scary. I mean, I
Yes.
remember being really, really scared by that because suddenly we're not doing, we're
Yeah.
being. And it's a bit like meditation. And ask any
Yes.
ADHD who's tried to start meditation, it's really uncomfortable. You know, meditation is probably one of the things that has helped me the most as a parent, but it's also
Yeah.
the most difficult thing to do,
Yeah.
sitting in discomfort. And I think that is a thing that I often land on with parents in this space is, how do you sit with discomfort? How do you
Yeah.
sit with your own discomfort? How do you sit with your child's discomfort? And sometimes it's just about just, when our kids are struggling, it's not that we need to fix it, although everything in our body is screaming, fix it, shut it down, stop these feelings because they feel
Yeah.
scary. But actually, we know from the parenting books that we just need to co-regulate and stay present for them. And
Yeah.
often that can be a great opportunity for you to practice calming yourself down.
Yeah.
And that might look like just noticing where your body is in space, focusing on some long, slow exhales, which we know are going to bring the parasympathetic nervous system, which is basically the part of the nervous system that's the opposite of fight and flight, back on board. Just slow, slow exhales. Don't think about your inhales, just think about the exhales if that's all you do. But also, if you're feeling rage, and like I really do experience a lot of ADHD rage, having some tools that you can rely on that are really easily accessible to deal with that. And one thing that I learned surprisingly not that long ago, which I wish that everybody knew, is that anger needs to move. We don't need to.
Yes.
We like so many of us, when we're angry, when we're feeling, a big feeling about our kids, and we try and hold it in. It's like we grit our teeth, we tense our shoulders. You might feel your wrists being all tense and clenched and whatever. And it's like, I'm holding this in. I'm not going to shout. I'm not going to shout. I'm not going to shout. And of course, that just escalates, right? The next thing happens. Of course, we're going to explode. Like, we can't not. We're like a rice cooker with a hole blocked. At some point, it's all going to exploding out. We need to give that feeling space. And the way that you can do that, if you're enraged, maybe not. If you're enraged, you need to move. So for me, one of my go-tos is to dance like a crazy person. My kids find it funny. I normally ask Alexa to play a song. I should not say that because she might be hearing. I'll ask her to play a song. I don't know if you guys have so much of it in the States. I'm sure you do, don't you?
Yeah, we do.
Sorry for everybody who's I've set off, or maybe they've just turned this podcast off. I don't know. But she won't listen to me. She never listens to me. She'll always play something entirely different. So it's always a surprise what I'm going to get. And I will dance like a complete lunatic. Something very dancey, maybe some drum and bass or something that's just going to get that stuff out, or whatever she ends up playing. And they will often join in. They don't know necessarily. I mean, I might tell them after, but they don't necessarily know that this is me really, really mad. And like, actually, what I want to do is hit them or kick them. I'm like, oh, I've got so much rage. But it's so much safer for me to do that and move that energy rather than to just sit with it.
Yeah, I love that. And what you're referencing is that somatic coach, the somatic therapist that you're working with, has been really helpful in teaching you these tools and skills to move that anger through the body, because it needs to move through anyway. So we might as well do it consciously with choice instead of like without thought, it just lashing out, right?
Exactly. It's either that, or it's just about thinking about creating space for those feelings and just trying to experience and notice where they are in your body, how it feels. And just let it pass. It won't last long if you notice looking at.
And I think what you really hit on here is that what we need to do for co-regulation is sit with the moment and feel like what's happening. But because there's a lack of safety in our own nervous system, it's really hard to do that. So, I'd love to invite parents listening, if they're ready for the next step, to reach out to a professional. And if that means like, Lauren, or like a parenting coach, I think it's a great next step to even like try one session, because what the coach or the therapist does is creates safety in the relationship so that you can bring up that stuff. And then they can co-regulate those difficult feelings for you. And then you start to build that neural wiring in your own brain. But it's hard to create safety in our nervous system on our own when we don't have access to it. We need to borrow it, which is the whole definition of co-regulation. That's what our kids need to do. And if we can't provide that, then we need to give ourselves permission and consider it like our responsibility, actually, that we need to get external support.
And external support to see what your next step is, where you are, and what the next step is for you. And that's not always an easy thing, but it's it's very hard to see if you're living it.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. So much to cover. And I love that we've really focused in on this element of self-regulation, especially when you're struggling with ADHD. And we know how hard it is to parent the child with ADHD or neurodiversity already. I think parents listening to this can certainly, they need more support there too, but you can't help your child if you can't help yourself. So this is definitely a precursor step to supporting your kid in the next step. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about resources you have for parents and where they can find more about you. As we wrap up.
Yeah, sure. So I am on Instagram, I'm Positively Parenting Together. On TikTok, I'm Positively Parenting Loz. On Facebook, I am Lauren ADHD Coach. I should really try and make them the same, but it's been really hard. And I have a free Facebook group called My ADHD Parent Village. That is for any parent who struggles in parenting, to be honest. I have lots of free resources in there.
Amazing.
Yeah, I also have a membership, which is really cheap. And I invite a guest expert every month to come talk to us about something related to neurodivergent parenting or parenting if you're neurodivergent. So we have stuff like decluttering workshops to help the parent, and then lots of sensory integration stuff, sleep, nutrition, school, and how you deal with kids who have barriers to accessing school. So a whole host of stuff. Don't know how much is in dollars, but it's £15 a month UK. So it's very accessible. It's just trying to give people that support and that community so that you can go in there and go, oh my God, this has happened, and feel like you're seen.
Yeah. I love
So
that.
anyone
Amazing.
who wants to know about any of my stuff, or get some coaching, or just like have a chat over DMs and just have a friendly face, please do come follow me, come say hi. I always love chatting to new people.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We're going to put those links below as well. And I really appreciate your time. I know this is timely in the United States as school is ramping back up here, at least in my area. We go back in about 2 weeks. And so executive function is going to be an expected skill set. And it can feel really overwhelming, I think, for parents with ADHD or who have kids with ADHD. It's another full-time job. And the more we can learn, the more we can really settle our nervous systems, the more we can access our executive function. So I think this conversation is really timely and going to be helpful for a lot of parents listening.
Good luck with the back to school. We're literally just starting our holidays, so we're like at the other end going, oh,
I love it.
Kids here today.
Yeah.
Juggle it all. But yeah, it's all good fun, isn't it?
It is. It comes in cycles and waves, and another round of this.
Back to school.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Amazing to have you. Thank you so much for coming.
Lovely to see you again, my love.